Welcome back, everybody. We are gonna trudge on forward with getting this baby running. I am gonna put new fuel filters in it because I'm sure there are new ones in there, but they've had fuel through them. They've been sitting for the better part of 10 years. That fuel has gummed up on both the outside and the inside of the filter. So it's gonna go on through. The next one will catch the stuff from here. But if anything should break free from this filter, then it goes straight in the pump, and that's just not worth taking the chance over. So fresh filters just to be safe. Kind of a shame, but it is what it is. Can't get this filter from Agco anymore. I have a Case IH, you can still get it. Baldwin, I'll put some numbers on here that you can look up to still get that filter. So let's get at it. First thing I'm going to do is take this. Ooh, it's stronger than me. Sediment bowl off and get that cleaned up. And that might require a wrench. Let's see, today is the 11th or the 12th. It's some unknown date. It's a Friday. But it's July, and I did start running weed on Monday. We had a small but wet thunderstorm come through Monday night, and then Hurricane Beryl found us. And we got somewhere over 4 inches, I think probably around 4.5 right in my area. But I think some areas, I know there was parts of my county that were over 7. So needless to say, things are wet. The wheat is on my sandiest ground, so it's going to dry out good. And the ground will probably be ready before the wheat is. It is so stinking humid out. I've got everything. Oops. Well, I splashed diesel on me. I've got everything ready to go with the combine. Changed a couple of settings and put concave blanks in to get a little better threshing. And just got to wait it out because it's so humid and some cloud cover. So we're just not getting the good drying that we need to get in there to get back at it. Now they're talking rain tomorrow night. So yay. Well, I think a little brake clean will get this back into looking clearer. So anyways, I'm here in the shop because I am just tired of working in that heat and humidity. My shop is not air conditioned, but it's been closed up and has stayed relatively cool, at least compared to the outdoors. So, good time to do stuff like this. When we last addressed this tractor, I had gone over the screwdriver test, and some of you pointed out quite correctly in the comments that I kind of missed an important step on this test. And so I got a new gasket cut for that cover and a new O-ring. So we're just gonna pull her back off to put those new seals in as long as we're there, and I can show you what I missed. So I'm going to try to keep it quick, the Reader's Digest version, so that you can get in and know what you need to do. So take the cover off, snip the wire, snip proof wire, and unscrew the screws. Pull the cotter pin, slide this baby out. There's our O-ring, I'll replace that. Now what we got is the gears, the teeth here that drive things, and this is the part I missed. There's a plunger, I can just see the spring in through there. Maybe I can zoom in. But the plunger goes up and down. There's a cam ring in there with 3 lobes in it. That pushes the plunger up, and this turns the same speed as the crankshaft. So every time the crankshaft goes around, 3 of the cylinders fire because it's a 4-stroke engine. And then it also is turning at the same time. That's why you got gear teeth here, so that it keeps moving around to the next line to inject fuel to the right hole at the right time. Now what can happen is that plunger can seize in there. That's the part that breaks and gets expensive. It seizes up here in the head. And that's the thing I missed. The screwdriver test is still important with the metering sleeve. If that's stuck, you can have a runaway engine or still break things. And I've got a parts pump we'll show on, but you take this front cover off, and then there will be 2 bolts that go into the gear, and you want to take those off, and then you can take the gear off. You're going to have to either mark things so you can keep it timed right, or retime it when you're done. But you want to be able to turn this injection pump with as least resistance as possible. If you turn it with the whole engine, it's hard to feel how hard this is turning. I'm going to do it here because I already know it's free, but you'll be watching up through this hole for that plunger, and you can kind of see down through there too, hopefully, for that plunger to turn with the gear as you crank the engine or turn the injection pump. I will suggest starting with just a little bit here. There's just a little bit you can move from the backlash between the gears ever so slightly, but that at least proves that part turns. With the cover off and the bolts disconnected so the pump is not being driven by the rest of the engine, you would put a socket on the front and then ever so gently start turning the pump, and you should see this gear turn. And if you look up through the hole, hopefully, but you should be able to see the spring compress that's down in here. I'll get a ratchet on the front of the engine and hopefully demonstrate. Okay, we can see the gears turning. Of course, I've got lots of resistance because I'm turning the whole engine. If you're turning just the pump and it started taking too much effort, at this point, just plan on taking the pump off and either disassembling it or taking it to someone to be disassembled, because if you turn too hard, then things break off. Because that's trying to turn that plunger as it goes up and down so it twists on it. That's where things break. It's really hard to see in there, let alone try to get a camera in there. But that's what you're looking for. Ow! Oh, that hurt. Yeah. Don't do that. Probably lost parts too. But I could see the spring compressing, so the plunger is coming up and turning, or it snapped off. But you really need to try to watch through this hole and see if that plunger comes up and down and turns. Yeah, that felt really good in a bad way. Okay, so there you have it. That's what you're looking for. Free movement. Try to get that gear to go back and forth. Try to move the pump without it being hooked to the engine, so you can tell if things are going up and down properly and turning. Like I say, it's kind of hard to see up in there, but it sure beats. And I guess if you just have any question at all, for as expensive as it is to fix these, just pull it off and take it to a pump shop. That sure beats the bill that you'll get if it breaks. New O-ring to seal this up. Part number on that is K something or another. K5722. Look at that. Done it so many times, I'm getting it on the first try now. Of course, I gotta get that in, which, you know, popped it back out ever so slightly. There it goes. Put a little aviation on the threads. Even, what is that, number 2 Permatex? I don't know. But the idea is it'll kind of act like a thread locker without being too aggressive. So of course the GoPro battery died while I was putting that back together, but I guess you can go back and watch the screwdriver test video, because I was up to that point where it's all the same. New gasket, new O-ring, it's all sealed up. So we're getting on to fuel filters. we'll start with this one. And you may find it interesting to know that the hydraulic filter and the primary fuel filter are the same filter. 103096 AS. This one's pretty straightforward. This larger nut on the top comes loose. There's a gasket here, and then the fuel leaks out, and you catch some of it. You try to hold on to your GoPro. Okay. Well, that fuel didn't look too nasty. It's probably all right. This one is a Napa Gold 3110, made in USA. Well, the canister looks nice and clean. Suppose I could put it back in, but filters ain't that expensive, not compared to the damage. There is a rubber gasket washer down in there. There is another old rubber ring that goes up in the head right there. Granted, I'm sure there's a few years difference between the Napa filter, which I believe is made by Wix, and the AGCO filter, which I believe is made by Wix. Interesting, there's so many more holes in the AGCO filter versus the Napa filter. And gold is their better stuff. More room for flow, so go figure. Come on out of there. Oh, I had it and I lost it. Ouch. There we go. Sometimes you can reuse those, but you know, the filter comes with a new one. Why try? Filter base. Filter. The plug on the bottom is basically a water trap. So what goes on is there's holes in this center stud somewhere that lets the filter, that lets the fuel comes in from the outside edge, comes through in the middle of the filter, comes up through this stud, and that's how you can bleed it out, and then goes on its merry way to the rest of the system. There is a copper washer under here. That's good for many uses, but eventually it could get squished out and need replaced. Any good hardware store ought to have a copper washer that would replace it. And then up top is the bleeder screw, which once we get the tank in, we'll go over all that, bleeding out the whole system. Doesn't have to be super tight. It's always easier to tighten them up a little more than it is to unbreak them. All right, let's go do the one on the other side. Well, this filter was the 90910. Unfortunately, it has been discontinued by AGCO, and probably because Wix discontinued it. It used to be their 33191. So there are sources. Baldwin has one, and Fleetguard has one. It's the same thing. I'll put numbers up. So we just need to disconnect the fuel line up here, down here. We'll have to take the fitting out of this canister and put it in the other one. Same thing with the bottom fitting, loosen the clamps. Nothing terribly tough. Not as speedy as a spin-on filter, but still. We'll come back to that one in a moment. Looks like another Napa filter. Guess that kind of dates it. Outlet on the bottom. I'll spin this fitting out, that one out, put them on the new one. I like to put the bottom one in. I can get the line hooked up, and then it's easier to index the top one because it's just out and open more. You can get that most of the way in and then finish snugging it up to get it aimed right towards the other line. I'm going to take this line off and just blow through it just to be safe. You can see it has, looks like it's a new rubber. They call them a Vibralock fitting. Oliver used them for quite a while, and they were supposed to be good for high vibration applications. And you can still get these little rubbers. I know some guys don't care for them. Let me just clamp out of the way. But when you put a new rubber on them, they're pretty good for quite a while. I like them. They work. And there is that one. Didn't see any sign of any crud in the lines, but this way we know for sure. So I think to give it some aesthetic curb appeal, it's going to need a radiator. Let's get the radiator and shell on. Well, even sent radiator bolts. It's nice when stuff's labeled. Power's back. Well, wasn't that exciting. Let's get us a flashlight. All I really wanted to do was measure how long I need to cut this hose. And then I'll pull the radiator back off. 3 inches ought to be about perfect. It probably says in the book. He even got new Rockford bolts. Rockford is what Oliver used for bolts back then. She's starting to look like something. Let's get some radiator hoses tightened up. Well, before the fuel tank goes in, we need to get this general area finished up. The coupler isn't attached. The clutch rod isn't in. I think that's the first thing I'm going to try to do is get that snake through, because that could be interesting with everything that's already on. I may have to lift the dash some just to get it in there. We will see. That ain't gonna work. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Just had to loosen her up a little bit. Oh, this is the brake shaft pin, and I think there's a serial number brake, and I just dropped my tool that is a 1/4-inch bolt. I think the early ones were pressed in, but at some point, because of wear and everything, they decided, well, we know how to thread these in, and they're actually left-handed thread. But to break it free, here's what I did. I took a 7/8 end wrench, put it over the shaft with a bolt there, and stuck a punch through the other end of the wrench. And first I turned it the normal way because I was thinking it was right-hand thread, and it turned but got a little tighter. So then I went the other way and she broke loose. And I can take this right out, because getting the brake pedal on with the floor pan in is, well, impossible. And I want to get that brake pedal in before I put the clutch pedal in, just give myself some room. I got the rod in. Yeah, them are definitely left-hand threads. Just something you might not have known. If you're ever working on one, I guess as long as we're here, we'll just get that pedal in there. Primer it, but it's gonna get all that done before it's all said and done. So at this point, it's just get it running, make sure everything's working like it should. Okay, you stay. I'm guessing they use left-hand thread just because of the normal way you put the pressure on it when you push the brake. Makes it want to turn this way. So that would make it tighten itself. And when it comes back, well, there's not much pressure against it, so it's a lot less likely to turn it. All right, clutch rod. Where'd you go? There. There we go. That should be the right spot for the clutch rod. I do believe it goes on the inside. Does it go on the outside? It's been a while since I've done one of these. I think it's gonna have to go on the outside. Isn't that embarrassing? There we go. Yeah, that does seem better. So I would assume the other side is right-hand thread. We'll find out before long. All right. Bolt goes there. Wrench goes there. And there, it's tight. That wasn't so bad once I knew what I was doing. There's this spring and this cover that go here to basically act as a dust shield. Hope that's good. I do believe there's supposed to be a felt to it. I'll have to check in the parts book. I haven't seen one in the stash so far, but there we go. That's actually not too bad right there. Crud. I think the return spring came unhooked inside. Now I can play a game of fishing. Well, I can't believe it, but my game of blind man bluff worked. I got that spring hooked back up without having to pull the bell housing. I think it's time to go take the missus out to dinner, somewhere air conditioned. Uh-oh, she might even be here. You just can't see her. She's smiling. Okay, here it is, I don't know, several days later. I've taken the wife out to dinner, and I'm still alive. Let's see. Make sure the clutch hasn't stuck in all this time. Looks like we're good. Don't know if I mentioned it before, but I was able to get the spring back into the clutch arm fork thing. So that was nice. Let's see. Yeah, this is bolted or tightened back down. Probably ought to put some cotter pins in those before I get too far. Brakes need finished up. And there's a rod coming out, so I assume they're done. Well, let's get some more up in here done. Something we need to watch out for is on this coupler. Yeah, it was even lined up. There's a hole on the input shaft right there. And you want that lined up with this hole and the coupler right there. And then there is a bolt like this, and this little tip goes into the shaft. Keeps the coupler from moving, but still gives it a little bit of flex. So we definitely need that. Oh, it's got to go back a little further. There's a new felt in there, so that's probably going to keep it from wanting to move as much as it should. That's fine. If you wedge a screwdriver in this front half where it's split, that'll kind of open it up and make it slide a little easier. Honestly, I think that should have a lock washer of some kind underneath it. Let's take it back out and do that. If for some reason you have to make up your own little bolt here, be careful about making it too long, because if you go on through that hole and hit the power shaft that drives the pump and the PTO, it goes through the middle. So if that's too long, it will hit it and cause you all sorts of grief. The tractor won't stop. Okay, that's in. Got the shaft slid pretty much in place. Let's see if a bolt goes through. These clamp bolts were originally fine threaded 3/8. Look at that, got her lined up. I like to, let's see, yeah, that's the lower side. One side's cut a little lower than the other. So I like to, well, for balance, I don't want heads both facing the same way. And with this grease for this part, I guess that lets the nut get down a little farther. Now if I push on the clutch pedal, spin it right round, baby, right round, like a record. Get the other one on there. There we go. Well, I got me a nice deep well socket to get on that from a distance. I forgot about this being a key start version because it's a 57. So I will get an end wrench. I think it might be 11/16. Yeah, that seems to be working. I hope there's some markings on the solenoid so I can see where which one the wire goes on. R and S. What is R? Re-energize? To the distributor. I might have to go look at another tractor to see which one it goes on. I'm thinking that back one since it's got two nuts on it. I would think S would be solenoid, but what would R be? Or S for start, solenoid, start. Oh, there goes that. Well, biscuits. Well, the 1600's got it on this outer post. Might have to check a wiring diagram. Seems like he got a new wiring harness from Corvus, and they usually send a diagram with it. found the right size nut in one of the containers of nuts and bolts. So we're going to that. There should be a clamp that goes on the starter here to hold the fuel shutoff. And that locks into this, screws into that, so that it can pull back and shut off the fuel. Tachometer. What I need to figure out is, normally it seems like the oil pressure picked up back here, but some Oliver's picked up here, to see if he remembers which one it was in. Both are plugged off. There's that one's plugged. Those are drillings that go up through the block to feed the crankshaft. Oil comes from the pump. This is your pressure regulator behind this nut here. There's a spring and a plunger, and it moves out, and when the pressure is high, and dumps some back in the reservoir in order to keep the pressure from going too high. So, yeah, they're all plugged. Yeah, I'll get with him and see which spot he wants it in. Well, I think we've pretty much determined that the oil pressure line must go in there at the base of the filter. I was thinking Dad's is a 56, this is a 57. I was thinking it went back in here, which a lot of them did, but no, it actually comes in from out here. There's a slightly different shape to the filter base, and I can see where that would kind of get in the way of the tack cable that became regular equipment in 57. So I'm betting that's why they changed it. Interesting. Well, we'll get that plug. He must have had that in there when he ran it, because he didn't have a gauge on it, or screwed one in there, then capped it off. Well, let's see what surprises. At least the hole is taped over. But we gotta get the power shaft back in. Guess we don't have to, but I want to make sure everything works. Little gasket cleaning to go on there. Gasket area cleaning. Still better than leaving it open. There, could be a dead mouse or something in there. Should have been left open. All right, now, is there oil in it? That's a negative. If there was, the teeth would be bringing it up. So we'll get that in there. Check plugs on the side here. Just fill it up until it just starts coming out of the check plug. I wonder if there's oil in the rear end. I guess we'll need to check that too. Something to watch out for is the bearing, the front bearing up here, actually goes into the main housing, and that aligns this PTO housing with the other housing. So I may have to loosen these bolts up. I can feel the gaskets overhanging a little bit up here. So I'll probably go in there with a knife and cut off the excess gasket, but the housing itself feels like it's aligned. Ask me how I know. If you don't, you tighten it down, it'll take out that front bearing in short order, because it's not going in the hole, so it's pushing back against it, putting a tremendous strain on it until it fails. The things I learned in my youth. I'm not sure how well it's showing up, but there is gear lube in the transmission. That is good. Good. But not in a PTO. Which, from everything I can see, that has been rebuilt. So, well, like I say, we'll get some oil in it and slide that shaft in. It's just easier to add oil through this hole. Normally, no. I think in the triple digits, they put a plug up top. I'm trying to remember, but basically you got to fill through that same hole on the side there. And then, to change it, you just take the cover off the bottom, drain the oil, wipe it out, put a new gasket on, put the cover back on, put oil back in. It is its own separate oil. The seal, or the bearing that goes into that rear end casting, is sealed. So there's no way for oil to transfer between when everything is working correctly. should have that plug ready to put back in. It starts running out. Oop, there she goes. As long as we're right here with oil and a wrench. Okay, he did not want that to come loose. Okay, I'll go find a square socket. Wow. That was not gonna leak. I should probably get something to catch the oil in case it does run out. Already put a little puddle on the floor. And that'll give me time to put new sealant on that pipe plug so it doesn't leak, but I don't have to crank it down. Just at it. It's where it's supposed to be. Well, let me put the old leak lube block, blue block, blue blah blah, the blue stuff on there. We do not have to put our back into it. That should not leak. All right, so we know oil good. Now it should come up on that gear. It does. Help get some flowing into the bearings and stuff. Got oil in here, we got oil in there. I did check the hydraulic, that's got oil and the engine, so I think everything's oiled up. Let's keep moving forward. I do believe I'm gonna have to find a gasket. I have not seen any gaskets in all the stuff I've gone through, and I'm pretty sure I've got one of these. I should have one of those. Get out of my shop, you birds. Jeez. It's a nice day for a change, so I got the door open. Good thing I decided to double check. There she is. I do not have to dig one out of my inventory. I remember seeing the bolts, he had those marked. So far it's been going pretty good. Well, the 3 PTO bolts were actually taped together and identified, so good deal there. You gotta make sure the gasket's got the hole at the bottom so the lube oil can do its thing. And then the same thing with the flange. When it goes on there, there's a hole in that casting for the oil to drain back. So gotta keep all that stuff lined up. But other than that, I think we're ready to stick it in. I'm gonna have to do some double checking because this front bearing, the smaller one, it looks right. It's shielded on this side. I don't know about that flat washer being in there. But it's got a seal so that the PTO oil can't leak out of the PTO because it's a whole separate unit. And then the back side of this bearing should be, I think that should be sealed, and then this side should be open so that gear oil can get in. Or is it both sides should be open? I'm going to double check the book because you got this drain hole. So it's going to be like this, or if you want to visualize it upside down, there's the drain hole. There's a seal on the back side of this that, well, keeps oil in. So yeah, I guess I will double check that before we go poking it in there. Well, I double checked. This bearing is installed correctly. Snap ring towards the back, towards the retainer. It's shielded on the gear side. 1600, which is basically the same PTO unit, is the same way. Somehow oil magically gets through there, and that's why it's got a drain hole right there, so pressure doesn't build up and blow the seal out. So it looks like it's right. I think we can put her in. This one's missing the shield on this side, and then this one should be on the other side. Everything else has been right, so we're gonna go with that. I see no reason to doubt it. It all looks correct. But I'm glad I double checked. And here we go. We gotta hit the hydraulic pump. So that's a bit of a, I suppose you can shine a flashlight up in there. Oh, come on, baby. Oh, come on. You can do it. Do it for me. It acts like it's entering, but not wanting to go through. Okay. A little light does help. There we go. There we go. Now the next thing is just to make sure, let's see, the oil drain is down. Let's shed a little light on it. And once again, that fully seats in without having to draw it in with bolts because of that bearing going into the you know, engine pulley thing. The worst we have to do is just loosen up the mounting bolts. Give it a little shuck. Shuck, shuck, shuck. See if I tunk with the old rubber mallet. Well, it's up against there. I don't think tapping it with this rubber mallet no harder than I'm doing would be able to force the bearing into a misaligned situation. All right, I give. I'll loosen those bolts up just to make sure. That sure beats taking out a bearing. Well, I was mistaken. Once I actually pushed on that collar, it came right up to the gasket. So, I think we're good. If I'd had to draw it in with the bolts, I'd be worried. But since we did not, this one is a job pretty much for an end wrench. That's about the only way you're going to reach in there. Keep track of these bolts or look them up in the parts book, but if you put too long of ones in, they'll go through and hit the gear. This has some surface rust on it where the throwout bearing goes. Well, there were two brand new throwout collars for the PTO. I'm sorry, two. One was brand new, one was not. I'm going to use the brand new one, although the other wasn't in that bad a shape. We just gotta take the bolts out, split it in half, put it on. I believe you can get these from Corvus Oliver still. But we'll go on something like so. The grease zerk facing back so you can grease it. Let's get it on there. Ooh, don't fall out. Let's give her a little shot of grease. I see people go to both extremes on greasing these. Of course, some don't realize it's in there, or something don't grease it at all, and this all gets worn out. And then the other thing is the guys that see, you know, they slide that little door open, see a grease zerk here, and well, they're just going to pump until they see grease come out. That's too much. You just got to have some inside here. And I don't know, I did a few pumps just because, well, it was empty and dry, but now it's got some grease in it. 1 or 2 is probably going to do it. This outer part, the center shaft always turns whenever the engine is turning, but this part here only turns when the PTO is turning, when it's on. And of course, this doesn't turn because it's in the forks are holding it. So I'll put my finger there to keep it from turning. So that's why you need lubrication in there. This is turning, this is not. But when the PTO is off, neither is turning, because, well, if the shaft ain't turning, then this ain't turning. And so, of course, this already isn't turning. So it really kind of depends on how much you use your PTO. If you use it quite a bit, you know, open that up and give it a shot of grease. I don't know, well, you know, check the manual. But just don't overdo it either, because it's just going to fall in this compartment here and just make a mess. This is a dry clutch, so if it starts getting to where it's getting flung around and gets on those discs, they're going to start slipping, and then you won't be happy. So this should be set. We probably might as well put a cover on it, because otherwise it's going to be spinning around here wanting to grab my pant leg or something and kill us all. And I remember seeing the bolts for the cover, and there was even a brand new rubber seal that goes around where the two meet. I might slide that in now. Yeah, what the heck. Because this will all pretty much come back to get part. At least the PTO part will come out when I paint, because I'll pull the engine back out to get that area properly painted. So then this will have to come out. So we'll deal with that then. But for now, the cover's going on. Now we need to get those arms to engage these 2 forks. It all comes together. Usually it's hard to see, but maybe you guys will have the advantage. I think I got it. I got this side all right. Yeah, I think I got it. So we just take our bolts. There's 4 of them that come up from underneath. I am going to leave that gasket thing out for now. It's a rubber tube that goes up between there. Like I say, it's coming back apart for paint. I just want to make sure it's all going to work. There. I say there a lot. Looks like this stop bolt needs adjusting just a skosh. It might be coming off sooner than I thought. I think it needs a couple of shims added. That's too tight. And that's the thing about rebuilding them. You don't really know until you get them back on the tractor where you got a good, you got that lever hooked up. You can check that stuff out. So yeah, we'll be re-shimming this one. Yeah, it needs shims added. And fortunately, I have some around. Maybe it's just tight from sitting, but I don't think so. It looked like it was all pretty tight, you know, close tolerance. Well, we'll get to go over that as well, because I want to put this on a dyno once I get everything running and kind of give it a good break-in run before we move on to, you know, the paint portion of the program. Might as well do her now. Adjusting these is not too complicated. There are 3 groups of 2 bolts, and under each pair of bolts is shims like these. That's a stack. Here are some individual ones that are used, but they're still shims. So since it was taking too much effort, we need to shim it out to decrease that amount of effort. If it was taking almost no effort, you take some shims out. The important thing is to add or remove the same amount of shims under each pair of bolts. And since they are slotted, you don't have to take the bolts all the way out. Just loosen them up, and you can either slide a couple in or slide a couple out, or take the pack out and take a couple. Just keep that count the same, otherwise it's not going to engage evenly and things will wear poorly. Down here where you can see it a little bit. I think I'm going to add, I don't know, let's add 5 shims per spot. Well, get down on there. We count another 5. And one more set of 5. There we go. That should be 3 sets of 5. Got one that's sticking up a little there. Can't have that. Ooh, that one's sticking up a little. Well, let's put the cover back on and see how it goes. Let's see how much that changed things. It's not too bad. A little tight. With everything being new, I think once it all seats in, there'll be a little bit of wear at first. That'll probably, I think I can live with that. Wow. I guess I better go buy a lottery ticket. Oops, push the button. Definitely has a good snap to it now. Yeah, we'll try that. We'll see how it is after it runs a little, and maybe before it's all said and done, it might get one more shim, but like I say, when it runs, for these all new parts, everything gets shined up. It might be a little bit of clearance added from all that. Everything's seating in, and that probably will get her just about right. Cool beans. I do believe the shims are still a good number. It's 161952A. I think Corvus Oliver has these as well. But I just remember recently seeing them for sale, brand new. And then you could always scavenge some out of a used unit or something like that. It's not that tough to find them because they all had them in them. Oh, let's see if I can get this pin out just as easily as the other one. As I was saying, I would assume this one's right hand thread. Just because the natural pressure against it when you're braking. Look at that. Them Oliver engineers were always thinking. In some ways I'm surprised, or I'm impressed, I guess not surprised, that the threads ain't rusted and it's hard that way. This guy always takes care of his equipment. Like I said, some of you might know who he is. He knows who he is. Ever so slight edge there from wear. Nothing drastic. Let's go find a brake pedal. That makes it much easier. Oh, where did the hole go? There it is. Drop a bolt in here again. I found there should be a washer and a cotter key, and I found them. And then I'll have to put linkage on. It goes, yeah, back here. And some of the linkage down there still needs to be installed. But we'll get her. A washer. I need to get some bigger cotter pins. Slightly small, but it will work for now. We'll give her just a little tweak so she ain't gonna come flying out. That'll work. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Gotta get this. Oh my. Well, that's probably gonna be the next thing is paint. Yeah, it's sliding in there okay. This pin is what this arm pivots on. Let's turn that. Oh, I guess it's going to slide in already. And then I can see that this is the side that actually faces down. Because then this adjustment nut, with its rounded part, fits into that little groove there to keep the pin from, oops, so you get something like this here. That's all that retains that pin, and then this pivots on the pin and draws the draw bolt for the brakes and does its job. Yep, that's the one for the other side. One for this side. Oh, maybe that other one was the right one. How embarrassing. Yeah, it goes like that, and like that, and like that, and like that. Yeah, it doesn't help. The pedal is facing the wrong way. That might make things better. Oh. Yeah, that lines up better. Okay, pivot pin, where'd you go? can do better than that. Rubber hammer. Probably enough paint in the hole to slow things down. I guess it's a good fit if nothing else. There. Hey, that's turning nicely too. We'll go with that for the moment. Probably have to tighten them up a little more. But that's got the slack out. Put the jam nut on. Shoot as long as I'm here. Might as well do the other side. Just gotta grab a couple more pieces. Well, I can see. Of course, it was probably standing on a jack stand or something here, but no primer there. Not much there. I'm probably gonna end up re-sandblasting it and just make sure it's all good. Come on, there we go. Yeah, no paint on that pin. It went in nice and easy. Sure that's lined up with the brake pedal. Clutch pedal's in the, I don't know, somewhat in the way on this side. If you don't get things in the right spot on the first try, you might be having a second try. Well, it's got to slop out. That'll keep this pin from moving. Well, it can move a little bit. Just what little bit it hits against that adjuster nut. The jam nut on for now. Then we can go up top and hook up more bits and pieces. Well, everything's about ready to go. Don't have fuel in it yet, but the tank, oh, I'm waiting on, I got them ordered, but I could not find a ferrule for that line. I usually have them on hand and was out. And so getting everything else ready. And first I was going to leave the air cleaner hose off because I figured I could put something over the intake in case it decided to take off. And then I thought, well, I can just put something on this side of the air. Okay, as I was saying before the battery decided to give up the ghost, I can just put something over here to choke it down. Of course, there's a fuel shut off here, but if something ain't connected right, that might not do it. So thought everything was looking really good. The ferrules will be here tomorrow, getting that air cleaner hose on. And well, I'm pretty sure it's the original because he cleaned it up. And I come around to this side and I got a gift from one of my viewers, and I guess I get the chance to try it out now. This is a part of the video where I would normally put some money in the swear jar. And as you can see, it's getting pretty full. Viewer Brian Grenzinski, I'm sorry if I butchered your name, said, for all that shell corn on the ground, that was a video from a couple weeks ago, I thought you needed a bigger swear jar. And he is right. So he sent me this. That's pretty cool. Thank you, Brian. So, I made up a nice sticker to put on it. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see, we can put a Herman sticker right there. And I even made these. Ross approved animal free jar. Oh, look, they're a little off center, just like Ross. Since he handles his language in a different way. Of course, he doesn't know he's approved this yet, but he will. All right, let's get it on the shelf. All right. Let's do a little fun to transfer. I'll set you right here. This should be about the right amount for that hose splitting. It might take a little extra. There we go. We can put the lid on and hold it all in. And the nice thing is, it's got a tap so that when, you know, tuition comes due, we can just drain some out and keep the college going. All right, thanks again, Brian. It'll be making further appearances. I lubed this up with some Dawn dish soap so it would slide on nice and easy, but it is just too old and stiff. And even on this thinner steel end, it split. So now I'm in the process of grieving over a tube and trying to find a replacement. AGCO is showing it as no longer available. I'm going to check some other sources and my parts reservoir. See if we can't get that back to original. That's important for this. And of course, I've got the JEG stickers that we can put on it. That'll make it go faster. Actually, what I did was I bought a pressure tank. We'll get to see that in the next episode. I think we got enough for video here. But it's got John Deere break-in oil in the engine now, so I'm going to drain it, put it in this, pressurize it, hook it into the oil gallery, blah, blah, blah. Hook it into the oil galley or gallery, depending on who you are, and just pressurize the tank, and it feeds the oil into everything. Since this engine has ran, although it's probably been close to 10 years since it ran, I feel like it's important to pre-lube it, because any assembly lube would be washed off by the break-in lube, and just try to get some oil up in there. Better safe than sorry. I thought it'd be good for the 1855 engine when I also get around to firing that baby up. So just another tool to have on hand, and as a lot of you will say, more tools is better.